El Paso, we hope we are alive. We tried this a couple weeks ago, but we had some technical difficulties. Imagine that. But I think we got it dialed in today, and I'm sure if not, people will let us know in the comments. And please bear with us as this is a little bit new for us. But the reason that we're doing it is because we've been making tons and tons of videos, but we really haven't had much interaction, like personally, with a lot of you. Of course, a ton of you have, used our services in real estate, but at the same time, we know there are a lot of people out there who, are hopefully enjoy the channel, enjoy the content. So we just wanted to try to be a little more personable and kind of come to you live. So obviously, Alex is here with me. Alex, what do you think? What's going on? How are we? Alex was pivotal in making this work.
Yeah, I just thought it was a good idea to start doing live streams or live video episodes because a lot of people always have many questions when they call us about El Paso and stuff like that. So I thought it could be a good way to interact with everybody, and obviously as a thank you for supporting the channel. So hopefully we can do this often. Obviously, if you guys have anything that you guys want us to talk about on these live episodes, just please let us know.
Yeah, definitely. We could definitely use your suggestions because we want to talk about things that are relevant to you, actually, not just things that are like, kind of going on with us. But speaking of things that are going on for us, just as we kind of try this out, should we try talking a little bit about some of the things we've been up to lately?
Yeah, how about you start?
All right. Okay. Now, we've also got Miguel behind the scenes here, manning the controls, so to speak. But I've got a couple of things going on. So if you follow the channel, you've probably seen me do episodes from the backyard, and I have a nice little view, but it's deceptively nice. I don't live in a mansion or anything crazy like that. It just happens to be that my house is kind of elevated above some other houses, which is really, really common in El Paso. And then from my backyard, there's a decent view of the Franklin Mountains. But my yard is really tiny, but what my backyard does have is a swimming pool. And I don't know when this swimming pool was made. My house was built in 1984. I don't know when the pool was put in. But anywho, the pool deck and the pool are really starting to kind of fall apart, especially the pool deck, because the three big dogs we have run around it like crazy people. And so it's been all torn up. So we might have some footage here, but we are getting our pool refinished, I guess. And so that's been going on for the last 3 days, and it's been really dusty and loud, but we're super excited for the finished product because most pools are plaster, but now there's this kind of new technology out there. The company's called Flame Tech. We're going to make a video about it, but it's a whole new process, whole new way to do everything. And so that's happening right now. We're excited to get a new deck, things like that. So that's been going on for me.
You're also doing salt water, right?
Oh, yeah. We are converting the pool to salt water, thank you. Just because supposedly it's supposed to be a little bit nicer on your skin and requires less chemicals, which is probably good as well. But also a chlorine pool. We did a video where Leah and I pulled out on the table like all the different chemicals you got to put in your pool, and if you do it yourself, and it's a lot, and it always has to be perfectly in balance with the pH and this, and if it isn't, then like this algae can start growing or the water turns green. So we're hoping that the salt water is easier to manage and nicer. So we're excited.
Yeah, that sounds like a huge project, but when I was listening to the guy doing the things, he said that he had to change the whole equipment, and there's just a lot of stuff that goes into it. So did they give you an estimate when they think they're going to be done? Yeah,
they're planning to be done Monday, Tuesday, and really what also prompted it too, speaking of the pool equipment, is that every pool has a motor that circulates the water through the pool, and our motor was going out, like it was making this god-awful noise, and so we were like, oh man, something's going bad here. So we bit the bullet, but we're definitely going to talk about it because in a nutshell, I like this guy. He was like, right now in El Paso, if you want to, like, let's say you want to buy a house and it doesn't have a pool and you want to build your own pool, a lot of times people are like, well, how much does it cost to build a pool? Mm-hmm. This guy was like, right now, just to build like your basic, nothing fancy pool in El Paso, $55,000 to $60,000. Whereas if you find a house with an existing pool, and even if it's in total garbage shape, you can redo the whole pool for maybe $15,000 and have basically a brand new pool. So it's an interesting thing. I think so.
Well, that's literally almost everybody, not almost everybody, but a lot of people when I'm showing houses are like, how much would it cost to build a pool in here? And I was like, well, it depends how fancy the materials you want, because like you said, we've seen starting at 40, 50,000. We've seen pools 100, 110,000, and then even more. So yeah, it's interesting to know the difference and how expensive actually it is to have a pool in your house.
Yeah.
Not only that, maintain it, like you said, it's quite a bit of work. Either yourself or having to pay somebody, which is what, $200 a month maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Depending, 100 to 200. But again, when they come by, they're not doing a ton. They're throwing some chemicals in, maybe vacuuming it out, and that's about it. So, yeah, pools are an interesting thing. They're great to have right now, but 6-7 months from now, I'm going to be like, oh, this stupid pool. But anyway, so that's what's been going on with me. What about you?
Just honestly, this week or two has just been working very hard. Honestly, I'm excited next week I'm gonna have a little bit of time off. I've been just focusing on working, changing some stuff in my routines and stuff. But yeah, I'm also planning things to do in the future. There's quite a bit of events happening here in El Paso and also Ruidoso, New Mexico, and a couple other places. So we're kind of taking this time to plan out, a couple of those events to start to do, those things. And actually, like we talk about, we've done things that we didn't do before, like the Chihuahuas game, the locomotive game. And I knew it was going to be fun, but I knew I was going to enjoy it that much that it's something that now I'm going to have in my mind all the time. Like, hey, we should do this pretty often. Kind of like the races that we talked about with Miguel all the time. I love going to that speedway because it's a lot of fun. And it's actually not really expensive, because sometimes I want to go to this place and it's like $70 for a ticket, and I was like, let's just get a pizza instead or something. But yeah, I'm excited to plan out all this stuff that we're thinking about doing after summer.
That's awesome. I got one more thing if Miguel can get it. Speaking of kind of races and kind of things to do, recently Leah and I drove out to Kilbourne Hole, which is it's in New Mexico and kind of, I think, this Bureau of Land Management area. But literally, we live on the west side, but it's maybe 30 minutes. And so we do have a Jeep, but you could probably even get there with a regular vehicle, depending on the conditions. But we did get out to Kilbourne Hole recently. Caught an epic sunset. That was awesome. I don't know if any other people out there kind of like any of the off-road kind of stuff, but that's also something to do right now. A little hot maybe during the day, but like at night when we went, it was gorgeous. It was great. So that's a nice, cheap, easy thing to do.
Right, and we were also thinking about possibilities of going camping. There's a lot of camping around here, but we were like, should we wait when it's not too hot? And I know there's places you drive 4, 5, 6 hours where it's not as hot anymore.
For sure.
So we're thinking about that. But yeah, maybe during summer there's some activities that are like, maybe you wanna wait until it gets a little bit cooler.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of that, even going up to Cloudcroft in Lincoln National Forest is only a couple hours, and supposedly it's supposed to be a lot cooler up there. So if you've been to Cloudcroft, that's a pretty cool area too. If you want some cooler weather and trees.
Really nice to explore. Before we head over, let me just had our people already. Army Piper, good morning, gents. Good morning, Army. Progressive Rising, good morning. Buenos dias, Alex. Buenos dias. Freeloader Adventure, hello and good morning, guys.
Nice.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. We really appreciate it. If you have any comments, any questions, just feel free to put it on the the comments right now in the chat.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll get better and better at this too. So like I said, we talked about wanting to do this with about you guys. So yeah, whatever you guys want to talk about, lay it on us. So that's what we're here for. But in the meantime, what we were thinking about talking about is what our experience has been moving to El Paso, because Alex and I aren't originally from El Paso. I've been here just about a little longer. I can't believe it's been this long already. About 4 years. And Alex, how about you?
3 years almost, 2.5. And it's crazy because it doesn't feel like it's been that long.
Yeah. Time flies for sure. So I guess kind of moving to El Paso, we were just going to kind of talk about just some of our general kind of thoughts. You want to start?
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, like John says, we're not originally from here. And obviously John lived in many different places before. I lived in many different places before. Mexico City, Guadalajara. I live in Portland, Oregon. I live in many different places. So I have a different perspective of things, right, that John might have. And obviously than you guys have, because maybe some of you are from here, some of you are not from here as well. So for me, I guess in general, everything has been great, but it is different. You know what? Every time that we talk about El Paso, how it is moving here, the first thing that comes to my mind is the stereotype that El Paso has. Everybody that comes here and they're like, oh yeah, every time that I told a family member, a coworker, I'm moving to El Paso, they're like, why? It's so all the common things that you might think that people say. It's dangerous, it might be dirty, it's a little tiny town, all the things you can think about, right? So for me, I never had that mentality, but people obviously pushed that on me, and then that's when I found your videos, and I was like, okay, it's actually nice. And my parents lived there before, so they kind of prepared me and said, hey, what you see on the news, what you see people talking about, it's not really how it is. They're trying to make things worse. And again, you helped us in the videos to understand a little bit about what El Paso is. And again, we've been nothing but happy. And again, time flies by, and I think as I'm happy and excited, because I think if I was miserable and not happy, time will go. I'll be like, oh man, it's only been 3 weeks. I feel like it's been a year or something. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And eventually we can talk about specific topics about, you know, affordability and all that. But yeah, I am very, very happy, especially with the people, because I feel like one thing is the people are very welcoming. And that's, I guess, the most important thing, especially for me. So yeah, I'm very, very happy. How about you?
Yeah, I'm very, very happy. I'll give my backstory super quick, because we have lived in a lot of different places. I was actually born and raised outside of Houston, so I'm originally from Texas. Houston is nuts. It's so massive, and the traffic is insane. Even when I was a little kid, the traffic was insane. I can't imagine what it is now. But anyway, so actually I was born in Dallas, and then we moved outside of Houston, grew up in Houston. Oh, nice. Awesome. So yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of Texans around here. Texas is a big old place to be from. A lot of us are from it. But then I ended up going to living in Kansas City, Missouri for a long time. That's where I went to high school. I lived in Chicago for a long time. It's where I did some college stuff for education. I lived in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, which is on about an hour north of Milwaukee on Lake Michigan. Love it. That's the one place I miss the most, probably. And then actually, Leah and I moved to, we were trying to go to Belize, I think is how you're really supposed to say it. And so we lived actually in Belize in Mexico for about a year. And yes, I know I lived in Mexico for a year and I still can't speak Spanish, even though I tried. Yeah, if you want to kick sometime, try to speak to me in Spanish and watch me get so frustrated. But anyway, and then we moved from Mexico, we moved back to Florida. And that's where we were last, Fort Myers, Florida. And I knew I didn't want to be there because, one, I think the vibe is weird. And I almost really say anything more for me. But the weather, so humid. It's really hot, but it's so humid. And so Leah and I knew we wanted to live someplace where the weather wasn't like this. Like, Leah wants to be in hot weather. I'm fine with hot. I just couldn't take the humid. Mm-hmm. And so we actually thought we were going to maybe move to Tucson, and we actually just passed through El Paso on our way to Tucson, and we stayed in El Paso for a night, and we were like, oh, like, this is nice, like, this is great. It was before COVID, and there was like some bicycle race going on downtown, and like tons of like young people, and we were like, this is sweet. Like, one, this blows away Florida, at least Fort Myers where we were. And basically, we went to Tucson. We were like, no, forget this. And then a couple months later, we came back to El Paso just to be like, was this right? Did we see this right? And after that second trip, we were like, that's it. We're moving here. And here we are. So, yeah, really what got us a little bit, I mean, we knew the weather was going to be good, but honestly, what got us was kind of just the vibe of the city. Mm-hmm. The people and all the energy, young people in Florida, as you can imagine, lots of people retire in Florida. It's a hard, where we were, it was a very older demographic, and so like I said, the vibe in El Paso was just awesome, and that's really what kind of drew us here, to tell you the truth.
Did you ever guys consider like Dallas and other places?
No. Well, we did consider Austin, but it's really expensive. This is before even COVID and when it really blew up with all the tech, but yeah, Austin's beautiful. I love it. I think it's gorgeous. It's that Texas hill country. Like, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. And it's cool. It's got South by Southwest, epic music scene, all of that. But I don't know, like, it's really expensive. The traffic was getting really, really crazy. And we were just like, I don't know. We were looking for something different. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it's just, like you said, it's just different, right? It feels different. You know, I've been in Mexico City, Portland, many different places, and here it's just different. Yeah, it is a lot smaller, but that's kind of what I like. And El Paso, I don't think it's for everybody. There's people that are just not, you know, they want the big city and just the big crowds and going to the, you know, pop star concerts every weekend, the most famous. So that's just not here. But it just, if it fits the stage of your life where you're at right now, which a lot of people move here to start fresh, to raise their kids, for many different things. So I think, like you said, El Paso is just obviously different, but for me, in a good way. You know, it just less traffic, less people. People seem happier here, and maybe that's why, because it's just smaller. The people are nicer, in my opinion, for the most part. And then just everybody seems to be just happy, enjoying about themselves, their lives, not really care about what you do or anything. So it is a total weight lifted off my shoulders. I've been in Portland, Mexico City, not only traffic, everything is just crazier. So it's just a nice pace that I didn't know I needed.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, the pace, everything is a little bit slower. And I try to be careful when I say this, but I do think it's true. Obviously, everybody knows that the demographic in El Paso is primarily Hispanic. Last time I checked, it was like 80% Hispanic. And so, I mean, let's be honest. I think the vibe of the city, maybe being a little bit more laid back, is because of that. You know. Like I said, I know you have to tread carefully, and we're not trying to generalize different races of people. But I mean, let's be honest. I think being that it is a Hispanic culture, a little more laid back, family focused, huge education here, right? There's tons and tons of young families with kids here. I think the median age in El Paso is early 30s. So. You know, there's tons of kids, so education is important. I always talk about this, but we have some of the nicest schools now. Of course, we pay for them through our property taxes, but the schools are still performing well, it seems. And so I think it also appeals to families, too, which is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to start the first topic? We got Newman.
Got a comment from...
Newman 25, good morning. Robin, good morning from Dallas. Progressive Rising says, Alex and John, I was born and raised in El Paso. I am planning to move to New Mexico. Which New Mexican cities would you recommend moving into? Ooh.
In New Mexico? I mean, we've been doing a lot of exploring.
Yeah.
I think Las Cruces is nice. Alex and I were thinking about trying to go into that real estate market and get into that space, but honestly, it's a little bit too far away, and neither of us want to have to go show houses in Las Cruces from El Paso. But if we would have gotten into Las Cruces, we would have started a YouTube channel, quite honestly. And my plan was to start the channel and call it Retire Las Cruces, because I think Las Cruces is epic for retirement, because way lower property taxes. They still tax your income by the state. But anyway, it's just a really nice vibe. A lot of beautiful houses. Some really nice restaurants. They have an epic farmers market. So it's a smaller city, still close to El Paso. You could go to El Paso for the big city. So I think Las Cruces is pretty nice. I have heard some interesting things about crime there that I wasn't aware of, but that's my 2 cents. Albuquerque, I had some great friends from Albuquerque who moved to El Paso, and they did not have good things to say about Albuquerque, even though I know it has a lot of cool areas and it has some good tech jobs. But if I were going to move somewhere in New Mexico, the only other places I've been, Santa Fe and Taos. But I went in October to both of those places, and the weather was miserable. It was like cold and raining. But I think those cities are pretty great. That's all I really know about New Mexico.
I don't know nothing about. I mean, I know just Las Cruces and stuff, and we driven there to go to Arizona. But yeah, I don't know much about New Mexico. The only thing I've heard is that one of the states that has the least amount of people. So I don't know. But Las Cruces, I've been there. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
And price wise, it's kind of similar to El Paso, I would say. And like John says, actually we went to a couple make videos for one of the bars and stuff, me and Miguel, and there was some guys from Las Cruces, and they basically told us that they come to El Paso just to hang out, to go to the bars, to go to concerts or whatever, because I'm assuming Las Cruces is not, as big as El Paso, so that could make sense. But yeah, I honestly don't know much about New Mexico, unfortunately, besides Las Cruces.
Yeah, I don't either.
We got another Freeloader Adventure says, it's the Sun City. Sunshine makes you happy. That's my assumption. And I do think that is true, because I've heard that scientifically it's proven, the sun makes you more happy. And Seattle, which is one of the places where the sun doesn't really shine there, I've heard that the pressure there is really, really high. So I think it does have to do a lot with what you're saying with the sun. I lived in Portland for many, many years, and it is kind of depressing. You go outside, and all the time you're just thinking about the weather. Because it's raining, you take your dogs out, the mud. It's just always the weather's in your head, and it kind of sucks, to be honest. And here, you just don't think about it, because every day is just nice and sunny. Now, of course, right now we're thinking about the weather because it's hot, but I'll take this any day over having to deal with, 9 months of kind of not great weather, and literally 2 weeks of sun. So yeah, but I do agree with you. Definitely, the sun has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Neiman, do you see Beto O'Rourke since moving? Do you often see Beto O'Rourke since moving there? No. How about you, John?
Now again, there's two things that as business people should never talk about: religion, politics. But with that being said, actually, yes, I have seen Beto O'Rourke. There's a restaurant kind of close to downtown called Savage Goods. I take clients there all the time. Alex, I've dragged him there all the time. It's my favorite, kind of local restaurant. It's awesome. I love it. And it's down kind of in Sunset Heights, which is actually where Beto O'Rourke lives. And sure enough, one time I was outside of Savage Goods, and Beto O'Rourke was just walking up the street, or coming from Savage Goods back to his house. So yes, I have seen Beto. I did say. Oh, actually, you know what? It's funny. I was on the phone, so I couldn't really say anything. So, but charming looking guy, tall. I was like, man, that guy is tall. Yeah. So yeah.
Progressive Rising says Rio Rancho, what I heard, is a decent city to live. Rio Rancho. Have you heard about that place?
Mm-mm.
No? You have to look into it.
Yeah, I have to look it up.
Yeah. Good morning for Fairbanks, Alaska.
Wow.
Where's your favorite place to eat in El Paso?
Nailed it. Yeah, what do you got?
I don't know. Favorite is hard.
I know you like a lot of the. I know you check out a lot of the taco places.
I do check a lot of the taco places, but if anybody, I'm sure people can please recommend me taco places, because I'm very spoiled. Obviously, if you guys are from Mexico too, and there are good tacos here, but I've settled with tacos on Cuco, because even though it's a chain, that's the best one so far I've found. So if somebody can, they're not bad, they're good. But if somebody has any recommendations for tacos, let me know. But I like that place. L&J's is good. And I really like Lucy's Cafe in Mesa Street. It's, I think, next to a bar called X Kings or something.
Excalibur or something, or King's X.
Delicious, affordable. It's been here forever, I've heard. So those are my favorite places so far.
Yeah. And those are great affordable places too. Just so that people do know, if you're looking for more, if you're more a little high end kind of taste or something like that, we are starting to see a lot of nicer high end restaurants pop up in El Paso. Elamy comes to mind. Yeah. This is a restaurant downtown next to Hotel Indigo, and the chef for I think a couple years in a row now has won some prestigious award, so that's a great place. And we've got these big new hotels that have some really nice places in them. Casa Pantera is a really cool place over on the northeast. But for me, just like simple, like laid back, Savage Goods, easy.
How about that steak place you guys went live?
Oh, yeah. Oh, we have some footage. Eventually, I'll show this. But anyway, if you're really into steak, there's a place called Cattleman's Steakhouse that's about 30 minutes outside of El Paso in a town called Fabens. It's not even a town. But Cattleman's Steakhouse, epic place, crazy place. They've got all of these animals on site in like a rattlesnake den. They've got this huge ostrich, like rabbits, goats, all sorts of stuff. So if you have kids, it's a cool place to take your family.
It reminds me of that place I told in Puerto Vallarta is similar, but instead of petting them, you pick them to eat. So there's snakes. There's this place in Puerto Vallarta, like in the mountains, you go in and you go in the back and it's like a petting zoo, but instead of petting, you just pick what you want. Every time you tell me that story, it reminds me of that.
I do not see that going well in America.
No. And I don't even know if it's still there. When I was a kid, I never pick anything except chicken. But anyways, we got another one. The nice... God, I can't say this word. I'm sorry, guys. Happy Saturday from Alamogordo.
Alamogordo.
Have you been?
Yeah. Alamogordo's nice. I've actually gone there to run in the mountains and stuff. So yeah.
Warm,
cool.
Probably warm. Just as
yeah.
What home builder says, Micah? What home builders are your favorites for under $500K in El Paso?
Easy. Go ahead.
Personal favorite, I like Palo Verde just because of their style, their builder. That's probably my personal favorite. There's other really good ones, but my personal favorite, I'll say Palo Verde.
Yeah, and under 500,000, easy. Palo Verde's great. I like Desert View. Desert View has some great homes. Hakes Brothers, very good reputation, nice, clean looking homes. Colors, Cullers, I like Colors. And so actually under 500, new builds, easy. Where that question would have gotten really challenging is if you would have said, what are your favorite builders under 300? Because then it gets real tough because I don't even know. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sad because when I moved here 4 years ago and started the channel, I was like, you can get new houses for 200, 250, easy. And honestly, those days are kind of gone. Like after the big home appreciation of COVID, honestly, you can't get into one of the builders that we just mentioned for, I think, less than 300, to be honest.
Yeah, it might be even because now, I mean, the prices are just going crazy up. But even some areas in the Northeast where I've seen some Palo Verde homes, I mean, I think they start like 280 or up. And the places that you can find the lower the 300 are usually close to Horizon City, Socorro, but that's usually different builders. But yeah, for me under 500, I say Palo Verde is my favorite.
Yeah, for sure.
Miguel Salgado, good morning, Miguel. Greetings from Chicago, my family and love. Can't read this, sorry. Visit to El Paso heat wave didn't really bother me, but I'm wondering will be the temperature in the fall season. What do you think about the temperature?
You are in luck because I just did a video with my friend Mike, who's a meteorologist and lives here, sold him a house, been here a couple of years, and we're about to, in the next week or so, we're going to post that video, and we go through all the different seasons on what to expect temperature-wise, but fall, I mean, probably lows in the 50s, highs in the 70s, 80s,
I think so,
more or less.
Yeah, usually 70s or so. I think overall the weather is very nice in El Paso. You really don't think about it, in my opinion, unless it's right now when it gets a little bit too hot. What is it, 104, 105 sometimes? And during winter time, maybe end of January, beginning of February, during at night. Because they can get a little bit cold, because we're still in the desert, right? But other than that, it's very pleasant for me.
Yeah, super pleasant. Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question.
Robin from Dallas says, is it now pretty impossible to find a nice home under 200,000? Not nice. Oh, nice home.
It's tougher.
It's tougher. You can find maybe 190, 180, depends on the location, that they're nice, they're taken care of, they're going to be older homes, like 1950s, 60s.
Likely need to be remodeled.
Yeah, you're not going to find granite in the kitchen, and everything's going to be pretty much when they built the home. But yeah, it's getting harder with time to find homes because a lot of people are moving to El Paso. Prices are just going up. A lot of companies are moving to El Paso, a lot of businesses, so yeah, prices are definitely going up. So those people that are waiting for prices to come down in El Paso, I mean, nobody knows, but I don't see it. I just see it keep going up steadily. So unless something crazy happens, but COVID happened, and what was the result of that?
prices went even higher up. So
Yeah.
it is hard.
One thing about the houses under 200,000 is that, yeah, they're still out there, definitely. But what makes it more challenging to get those homes is that those are the homes that are the most competitive. And so if a decent home comes up at 185, chances are there's going to be a ton of buyers who are interested, and that's just going to make the price go up higher because there's going to be multiple offers. And so there are still homes that are totally fine, good, great areas, safe, fine, under 200. But what we see is that unfortunately there's so much demand for that price point that it actually makes the price go up a little more. So it's tricky.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
Now, Freeloader Adventure said, I got my Edwards home in Horizon City for $256,000 2 months ago.
That's awesome.
So that makes sense. Horizon City, 210,
totally,
250, 260 is pretty close to the average. So that makes a lot of sense.
That's great. Yeah. And those, and you can still get homes around that price point. Like he mentioned, Edwards, Classic American comes to mind, Saratoga, Casas de Leon was doing some of that price point. So again, and what we always recommend, because people ask us about builders all the time, of course, we're happy to give our experience, but remember, check the reviews, read the reviews that other people have had, and of course, there's always going to be some negative reviews, but if the majority are negative, then I would think again, as far as judging builders. But that's a great example. Edwards, Classic American, you can still get homes around that price point in those areas for sure.
Definitely,
It's awesome.
In Alamogordo Mesa Village is a nice housing community. Average home price is under $300,000. So pretty similar here. It'll be interesting to check out that place and see what the real estate says over there.
Yeah.
Cool. You want to start with the catch up on the comments? You want to start with the first kind of topic?
Yeah. So we were going to talk a little bit just about our experience moving to El Paso, and we were just going to talk about a couple of things. We've already kind of talked about weather, how that's been a really important thing for us. Another thing that's important for a lot of people is affordability, right? And so we've done plenty of videos, cost of living in El Paso, things like that. And we know prices are going up, no doubt about it. Prices of everything, not only just houses, primarily because of COVID and what happened with that, and primarily because there's simply a lack of housing in our country. Yes, absolutely, home prices have gone up. And of course, everybody is aware that inflation is happening, and so the price of everything else is kind of rising. Food has been a big one. We are seeing higher gas prices here. And everything like that. But in general, the numbers, the data still shows that El Paso is definitely still in that affordability, on the lower side of it when compared to other mid to large size cities.
Right. Because you do got to make the comparisons. A lot of people say, okay, I'm going to move over there, and the houses are a lot, more affordable. But also, let's say if you work a job that is minimum wage, also minimum wage, it's going to be a lot lower than that. So it has its pros and cons. But like John says, the data overall compared to other cities, it is very affordable. And that's actually one of the reasons why we moved here. Because, like I said, I used to live in Portland, 2-bedroom apartment with 5 dogs. And it was like $1,400. And it wasn't fancy. It was just a normal place in the suburbs, nothing crazy. And then the whole COVID thing happened. Interest rate just dropped crazy. And my parents refinanced their house in Portland, ended up buying 2 houses here, and we ended up moving here, basically renting one from them. And we pay a little bit more for their mortgage than what we used to pay for rent, but now we have a house.
A nice big house on the west side.
2,500 square foot on the west side with a backyard for our dogs. It's just, that's one of the main reasons why we move. Obviously, when you go to the store, things are more expensive when you go to Phoenix. And I didn't thought it was like that dramatic, but even as crazy as like McDonald's, right? I go to McDonald's, I get pancakes, whatever, $3, and I go to Phoenix to visit, and then it's like twice the price for the same thing. I was like, I don't want to move here. Let me go back to El Paso. So affordability is probably the main thing, honestly, that brought us here, but all the other stuff is just a huge plus.
Yep, absolutely. And of course, of the places I lived, they were all more expensive. Houston, Kansas City, Chicago. Even Fort Myers, Florida was more expensive. Now, Sheboygan, Wisconsin was not as expensive, but there were 50,000 people in the town. And, you could go to the bar and get a beer still for like $2. And so So it's not we're not on like that level.
Right.
But again, compared to other bigger cities, things are still pretty darn affordable. And you made a good point. Because people will think this, or they comment on this a lot, and they say no, it's not. They'll dispute the fact that El Paso is affordable, and the reason that they're disputing it is because of the minimum wage. And unfortunately, the minimum wage in Texas is like $8 and something, maybe $8.50, something like that. And we say this all the time, but yeah, if you're living on minimum wage, then it's not going to feel affordable to you at all, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, nowhere in the country, I think, minimum wage is just unfortunate that that's how things are. But yeah, you're definitely right on that.
Yeah, but if you know, if you're working in another field potentially, and that isn't paying you minimum wage, they're paying you a salary that's more respectable, then you're still likely to see that then El Paso, will be pretty affordable.
A lot of remote workers take advantage of that. A lot of people I have that they used to go to Seattle. Seattle was like the place to go for remote working, and now Seattle is very expensive, so it's a lot more dangerous. So we've seen a lot of people that work remote moving to El Paso.
Yeah.
We got Newman says, do you think someday El Paso will get a major sports team? I think so.
That's a great question.
I mean, the ones that we have, God, it's so much fun. I mean, yes, it's not like let's say the MLS. Let's talk about soccer. It's not Major League Soccer, the soccer team that we have, but it's pretty much the same thing, John. I mean, the stadium is huge. The people. So for me, I think we will get something in the future. I don't know if it's going to be a soccer team. I don't know if it's going to be a baseball team. But I think it's just a matter of time. I mean, cities, when they grow, they start getting more people are interested, more investments, and then they grow. It gives me the little example of Portland, which is a way bigger city. We used to have a soccer team, which was just like what we have right now. It was not a major league. And it was the same people. A lot of people liked to go to the games. They got packed, and then the city started growing more and more. And then eventually they remodeled the stadium, made it bigger, and then the team became part of the MLS, which is the major league soccer. So I think it will. Just a matter of time. But what do you think?
I love that question. I think if the city does grow, I think more. It's hard to figure out exactly how many people live in El Paso, but let's say it's 800,000. I think if the city does grow, blow up a little bit, then I'm sure we will. I think, I'm just guessing, I have no basis for this. I think we would most likely get a baseball team. I just think that because we already have the existing team, and the other reason I say it is because El Paso is kind of like geographically isolated. We're kind of like out here in West Texas, kind of all on our own. So the nearest big city is either San Antonio, which is I think probably 8 hours east, or Phoenix, which is I don't know what
6 hours.
Okay, so like I think geographically we're located in a good spot, and so I do think if the city continues to grow in population, I think we would. A soccer team would also make a lot of sense too. You would think.
Because we have so many. I try to get down to El Paso at least once a month. Every time I go, I realize how huge El Paso really is. I love it. So many more things and places to eat, which I love. And that's a good point because El Paso is growing. And to his point, I've noticed that a lot of people that are from El Paso, they don't like that. Right? A lot of people are like, oh man, I don't like it now. Things are getting more expensive and all that. And I see their point of view, and I completely agree. But like to your point, there's a lot of people come here, especially from some places in New Mexico, like Las Cruces, just to come and eat at different places, go to different bars, maybe some concerts. So Las Cruces could be a good option for people to move if they want to have a smaller city, smaller community, and drive from Las Cruces to the west side of El Paso. It's 40 minutes. So it's
easy 30.
It's not a big of a drive at all. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and real quick to that point, because that's a good point too, and I see that a lot in the comments as well, where people who I think are probably originally from El Paso express concern that things are changing, but not to be philosophical, but change is the only constant. Change is the only thing that you can count on. There's always going to be change. Things are always changing. It's just the nature of everything. And so I can understand how people can be frustrated, like, oh, when I was, when I was younger or 30 years ago, this or that. But unfortunately, change is always going to be happening. And I can certainly understand the sentiment that people miss how things were in the past, but there's no stopping it. I mean, change is a train that you're never going to stop.
Yeah, that's true. As long as it changes for the better, and I guess that's part of also our job as a community to try to push that, because otherwise, government's just going to do.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Thank you. Because that's another thing, because some people would say, well, it's not the community, because the community might want the city to go in this direction, but then the city council decided otherwise. And I just went through this big thing. It's called El Paso Neighborhood Leadership Academy. It's free. It's awesome. If you really want to get involved and understand the behind the scenes of how the city works, you should sign up for it. It's amazing. But what I did learn from that, big takeaway for me, is that we all gripe and complain about government a lot, and rightly so. But I feel pretty confident saying that, quite honestly, the city government, El Paso city government, is pretty legit. Like, I'm sure they're not perfect. How could they be? But from having gone to this leadership academy and attended all of these different departments and like, it's a pretty well-oiled machine, like doing good things on behalf of the citizens. And of course, yes, I'm sure there's going to be tons of people with stories that are like, oh, that's not the case. But in my humble opinion, city government is charting a pretty wise, healthy, responsible path for what it's worth.
And, I mean, at least maybe from like Guadalajara and places like that, right? The taxes, right? It never goes to what they're supposed to. And even people here in the United States, when they're coming from other states or other cities, they're like, oh, wow, El Paso's very clean. El Paso's actually very nice. And I was like, yeah, well, that kind of shows to a point that, not only the people itself can be, they're clean, but the city itself is actually spending the money and keeping not only education, but everything that, you need for the city to run. Like you said, of course, it's not going to be perfect. I'm sure there's people who really, dive deep into the government, and they know there's going to be issues. There's issues right now, but yeah, I completely agree with you. And also, like I said, it's maybe our responsibility as the community and the citizens to make, sure the government, does what, they're supposed to do.
For sure.
A couple more comments. Progressive the closest city is also Albuquerque. How far Albuquerque is from here?
Oh, man, 4 hours? 4 hours. More or less. And Albuquerque is cool, like, don't get me wrong. But the one thing that my friends said that really is plaguing Albuquerque and a lot of other cities is homelessness. Mm-hmm. The downtown area of Albuquerque, it sounds like, is a pretty dangerous area, and unfortunately tons of homelessness, homeless camps everywhere, and so that's kind of my only concern about Albuquerque. But in Albuquerque, nobody lives downtown for the most part. Right. Everybody with money in these tech jobs live in the surrounding suburbs that are probably gated communities. So it's just it's like more of a disparity between the haves and the have-nots, maybe.
Right, that makes sense. Mike, looking for the numbers. Looking at the numbers, which part of town would you say is the best and better for investment? West side or far east? This one quick. Depending on what you want, I think Airbnbs, that type of stuff, central, maybe the northeast a little bit. Mm-hmm. If you want single family, like long-term rentals, I'll say the far east is probably your best bet. There's a lot of movement there. Single family homes, not nicer, newer. 200 up, 250, 220 can get pretty nice homes. So that's the most popular for investors. If you're looking for that, far east probably, maybe northeast, central, Airbnbs. The west side, I mean, everything rents in El Paso, but if you want the more chances, I'll say those are, and it depends also what type of investor. If you're trying to flip homes, it's just
hold them.
Yeah, hold them. It's just many different options for different investors. So I'm sorry, but that's kind of like my overall quick.
And that's 100% right. And we know because we deal with this a lot. And I will say this, and well, I mean, our goal is to be honest. Yeah, we have a real estate business, but we want to be honest. And whenever investors reach out to me, I always preface up front, I'm like, look, yeah, the demand for rental properties in El Paso, strong, great, awesome. Prices, low. But what's gonna mess up your cash flow? Property taxes.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, property taxes are high. One of the main complaints.
Yep.
Freeload Adventure says my top reasons I moved back to El Paso: people, weather, cost of living. Yep. Literally. I think those are my three.
Those are my top three too.
Things to El Paso. Progressive as the city is growing, traffic is becoming heavier, therefore taking more time to arrive to their respective destiny. Living in the east side takes 40 minutes to drive to downtown. So, yeah, that's pretty.
I was just talking to somebody the other day. I was showing a house on the west side, and it was over by Interstate 10 and that Art Craft Paseo del Norte intersection, which is getting pretty heavy too. But at the same time, they are doing a bunch of construction on 10 there. So maybe once all that construction is done, that'll ease that. But yeah, this person's totally right. When I first moved here, I remember zipping around Horizon City to the Far East. I never really thought about traffic. Now, whenever we go over there, especially if it's in like morning or evening rush hour, man, it's tough. Like that interstate I-10 in Eastlake, that thing's a mess. A lot of the exits on and off of 375 to get into the Far East. Those are intense.
Yeah, I think they get pretty intense there. Like John says, morning and afternoon, people get off work and people like coming from base and stuff like that.
But I think it depends on perspectives, right?
Yeah.
Because I've had people, and even myself, I lived in Mexico City. So even for me, the traffic right now, I am happy. For me, it's nothing. Obviously, it is different. Like when John says, when I moved here, it's gotten worse, definitely. Now, I do like that the city is doing something about it. It looks like, I mean, at least I-10 by the west side, it's always traffic because they're doing construction. So, but I think it is getting worse in that sense. The good thing is the government's doing something about it. But yeah, I had a lot of people that come in, and I'm like, oh, sorry, the traffic is like, what traffic? Everything's fine. I live in Chicago, and so it all comes down to perspective. But yeah, you are right. Definitely, things are getting heavier when it comes down to the traffic.
Yeah, definitely.
And she says, hi guys, dying in the humidity of San Antonio and dreaming of El Paso. Yeah, that's the thing. Like you said, I think I live in Puerto Vallarta, which is very hot and humid, especially during August time. You take a shower, you get out of the shower, and you're already sweating. I do prefer the dry. I think so.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, we always. It's funny. Everyone's like, oh, but it's a dry heat, and it makes a big difference, you know. I mean, now look, July was hot and still hot, and if Alex and I were to if Alex and I were outside right now in the direct sun, man, we'd be sweating. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But if we went into the shade, we'd be fine, you know. And so yeah, that dry heat it makes a big difference.
It definitely does. Yeah. It says, my property manager is concerned about the crime in the Far East Pebble Hills. She's concerned that families might be hesitant to live there. Do you see a huge difference out there as they search for places to live? There's not a city on earth where people don't complain about traffic. You're right. Talk about that, concerning about the crime and all that. Again, perspective. The worst places of El Paso for me are nothing compared to Portland, Mexico City, Guadalajara, right? Now, there are places that are more dangerous than others, like in any other city. I've heard about this lately, like the Pebble Hills. I even saw a little article that said the Pebble Hills is a new Devil's Triangle, and I was like, exactly. That was my response. I was like, what are they talking about?
What are they? What's the problem? Property crime? You think?
They're just saying no in general, but I actually clicked on the article, and it's just basically somebody in FitFam, which is I think a very popular app or thing here about the news. They're saying like, oh, you know, things are getting, you know, more people over there, so there can be more crime. But I mean, I don't live there, so maybe if you live there, tell me. But I go there all the time. We've had people that live there and we haven't heard any complaints when it comes down to that. Because I literally read an article that said it's the new Devil's Triangle, and I was like, what are they talking about? So I don't think that's the case. Maybe again, perspective. If you live there for a long time, now there's more people. There might be a little bit more crime. I don't know, but I personally don't see it. And I think it's more people just, you know, putting out articles and news to. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do some research because I always want to know. But I mean, Pebble Hills, that Far East area, like that's a really nice like area. Like that's probably our most popular suburb in all of El Paso. Super popular with military people because it's close to the base. Nice newer homes, affordable parks, like new amenities, new stores. They're So the fact to hear that there's being issues with crime, like what kind of crime? And I have to believe that, yeah, maybe what they're talking about is property crime, because that's one of a lot of the cities in New Mexico are having issues with. So I'll do a little more research, but quite honestly, I don't know. Like I find it strange to hear that there's like big crime issues in Far East, but we'll look into it more.
Right. Anna says, I live in Portland for 5 months from November 2009 to March, and it rained every single day. Yep. And it was miserable. Yes. Unfortunately, the sun came out just as we were leaving Portland back to Texas. That's how it is. I mean, that's people don't think it's real, but it is real. The weather really affects your day-to-day life, your mental being and everything. So that's what I tell you guys, and I told John. I prefer to be in El Paso, which honestly the weather, in my opinion, is perfect. It's great overall. I might complain a little bit for a month or two right now because it's hot. I might complain a little bit in winter because it gets a little colder at night. But I take that any day of the week than having to be in Portland, like you said. And I love Portland. I love the people and everything, but it is pretty miserable when it comes down to the weather. Yeah. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, kind of finishing up. He says there was a murder. I think it's more about perception than reality, but I want to check if you had heard anything. Yeah, I've heard like that, the rumors. Like there was an article somebody put in FitFam, and I read it, and it seemed to me more of a fantasizing news than actual. But yeah, we're gonna, now that more people are bringing it up, I guess we'll, see what truth to that is, because it doesn't seem to me like that is, like John says, that area is very nice. New houses, suburbs, lots of family, military, retired. So yeah, I'll be surprised to see if it's something bad.
Yeah, and we'll do maybe that's the topic we'll do for our next live one, is we'll talk about crime and stuff like that, because I subscribe to the El Paso Times. It's like our major newspaper. I think it's fair to say they're about as unbiased as you can get. And so every day I go through and read the main headlines of everything. And yeah, don't get us wrong. Like, we're not trying to tell you that El Paso is perfect and there's no crime here. That'd be insane. It's a city of 800,000 people. And so, yeah, every once in a while, yeah, there are people that get murdered and things go bad. We've seen a lot of things with like younger people like having parties and things go awry. But, not to say that, well, I mean, that's just, it is kind of how it is. But we'll look into it, because I don't think there's like any new like rising crime thing happening. But we'll look into it just so that we can.
I mean, if you compare the news, like in Portland, right? Every day there's like a shooting in the Northeast, and here it happens. Because it happens, but it's nothing like what some people are used to in the bigger cities. Like John said, so we're, I don't know, 800,000 people or so. So there's going to be issues like any other place, but overall, I think it's a lot better, a lot safer.
For sure.
And you can feel it, in my opinion. You walk around Portland, you walk in a lot of places, and you walk here in El Paso, and it's just, in my opinion, it just feels safer.
Yeah. And another big thing is that a lot of cities that are really, really struggling with crime, from property crime to assault, things like that, are the cities like Albuquerque, Portland, San Francisco, that have these overwhelming homeless populations. Yeah. That's a huge difference between El Paso and a lot of these other cities that are seeing these spikes in crime and things like that. The devaluation of properties because somebody's camping in your yard and using your yard for a toilet. Like, that kind of stuff is not happening in El Paso. No. Do we have homeless people? Of course we do. But it is, dare I say, a much smaller population, and not an out-of-hand crazy situation like it's become in so many other cities.
Right, and it all depends where you come from, right? For me, I came from a very different place. Portland is totally different, lots of homeless. Everything about Portland, in my opinion, is very different, even the people, right? So, yeah, it's just also perspective. For me, like I said, I'm very happy here for all the reasons that we talked about, but definitely, yeah, it's there's no perfect place. It's not like, this place is for everybody. It's not for everybody, but for me, I'm very, very happy.
Yeah, me too, which I think is probably a good place to start to wrap it up. I know we've been on now for an hour. We got any comments that we should
just last one. Newman again, what are the best jobs in El Paso currently? I mean, you probably know.
I've been talking to a relocating person. Where are they from? It doesn't come to me, but they literally have been texting me like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how many healthcare jobs there are here. And now they're in healthcare, so that's why they're excited. They were like, we thought it was going to take us forever. I think they're coming from outside of Dallas. They were like, I thought it was going to take so long and be so hard to find a healthcare job. Healthcare, definitely huge. Other jobs that I think are still probably doing pretty good. Education, just because there's so many kids and so many schools, things like that. And then also construction is huge. So construction, all of that is pretty big. And then what El Paso, and this will be another episode, but in a nutshell, El Paso is really trying to promote manufacturing. They're really focused on aerospace stuff, and so that kind of like STEM type of jobs, and so they're really pushing a lot of that. Now I think there's still a long ways to go in that area, but that's where El Paso is trying to open up a pretty big job market.
That makes sense.
Yeah, those would be my top ones. We should maybe take that as an opportunity. Thank you guys so much for the comments and engaging. We're doing this so that we can answer questions and engage with you. So thank you so much for taking the time in your morning to join us. If you have any ideas, things we can do better, we'll get better at it personally as we do it more. And we'll try to have more footage also too. So it's not just looking at our faces the whole time, but we can show you some other footage, things like that. So if you have comments, ideas, thoughts, please let us know. Ideas for new other videos. One gentleman recommended a restaurant on the west side, Cedar and Sage. It's a new restaurant that's supposed to be great. And he was like, oh, you guys should do some, like spotlight the thing. So if you have any like local businesses or anything that you think could deserve some attention, please let us know.
Yeah, again, like John said, we really appreciate you guys. We do this to kind of give a little bit of appreciation to you guys, and also so if you have any questions and comments. So we appreciate everybody that stopped in, regardless if you commented or not. And like John said, if you have any recommendations about any videos you want us to do, any other topics, because we will try to do more of these live episodes. And like John said, once we figure out tweaking a little bit more to add more of the footage, so you guys just don't see our faces. But yeah, nothing but just we're very appreciative of you guys and your support through these years on the channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Let me reinforce that comment. Thank you to those of you who are so kind to have subscribed to the channel, especially if you've been, subscribed now for a while, or even if you just subscribed. Thank you. That does make a big difference for us. So we appreciate that. All right. Thanks, guys.